Hey there, Mr. Reddit here. Welcome back to another episode of r/Entitled Parent Stories. Our first story we'll be reading today. My boss, Karen, didn't listen to me and makes a $10,000 mistake. After that, am I the jerk for calling out my sister's fiance when I recognized the engagement ring he proposed with was fake? And after that, we're paying them to work. Don't give them warm drinks unless they're going to reduce the fee. Now for every thumbs up this video gets, one Karen loses $10,000. Leave my money alone. So please smash that like button. And if you're new, subscribe and turn on notifications for new stories from Reddit every single day. My boss Karen didn't listen to me and makes a $10,000 mistake. So I work at an outdoor bar and grill. I work as a busboy, but have some responsibilities outside of that. One of these responsibilities is stocking the walk-in freezer when beer shipments come in. The restaurant that I work at is very popular in my town, which means it takes a very long time to stock the mammoth shipments. They take most of the day, 100 to 200 cases of beer. So I got to work on a shipment day, and there's more than I thought. I'm taking a lot longer than I usually would. I look up at the sky, and the clouds are looking pretty rough. I look at my phone, and lo and behold, it's gonna thunderstorm. So I take the hand truck and start moving the beer under a canopy. My boss sees this and doesn't like that I'm taking another 30 minutes to move the beer for a second time. She was a police officer for 20 years, and as she puts it, I always know best. So she just starts chucking the beer in the freezer way too high with no regard for how it's stacked. I know she's gonna mess up royally and try and explain that that's not how you do it. This is how the following conversation ensued. My memory isn't the best, so this is a generalization. Me, that's not how you do it. You're stacking them the wrong way, and the towers are way too high. Boss, I've been in this game for 3 years. I know what I'm doing. Me, you put me here to do this job, and to do it right, and I was trained properly. That's the wrong way to do it. Boss, either help me, or the door's that way. Points at door. Cue malicious compliance. So I go home for the day, because I know it's gonna go wrong, and I don't want to be responsible. Not 30 minutes later, I get a call from a coworker furiously screaming at me, saying that I need to get back and fix my mistake. So I ride my bike back and walk right to the freezer and see a mess. The entire right wall fell down, ruining around $4,000 worth of beer, $2,000 worth of food, and the entire wall is soaked. They had to close down the restaurant for 2 weeks to fix the freezer from the damage. Beer got under the floor and started messing up the walls and floor. Moral of the story, listen to your employees. Update, my boss tried to lie to upper management to get me fired, saying that I was the one that told her how to stack the beer. Thank God my coworker Jack saw what happened and vouched for me. She got fired. Feelsgoodman.jpg. Have you ever had a boss who didn't know what they were doing? If so, what happened as a result of that? Please let us know. I always know what I'm doing. Am I the jerk for calling out my sister's fiance when I recognized the engagement ring he proposed with was fake? This is an ongoing mess that continues to haunt me. I'm a 22-year-old female, and my 25-year-old sister Hannah is newly engaged to her boyfriend of many years, Ben, who's 25. Ben and Hannah are high school sweethearts. He's the only boyfriend she's ever had, so she tends to take his word as the gospel truth. But I've always been suspicious of Ben, as I tend to be of all people, to be fair. Hannah and I have very different worldviews. I've had quite a few boyfriends and one girlfriend. I believe in freedom and exploring yourself. Hannah only knows Ben. Anyway, we had a small gathering of family around at my sister's house for a barbecue in the garden. During the barbecue, Ben got down on one knee and proposed. At first, I was super excited for them, but then I saw the ring. And I'd seen this ring before. Call it divine intervention, but I'd seen this ring a few months back on Etsy. Hannah had hinted that her and Ben were discussing tying the knot, and we discussed rings at length. I went online to search for the type of rings she said she was interested in and happened across a very unique and pretty ring on Etsy, but it had a fake middle stone, i.e. lab-created diamond set between 2 tiny opal-colored stones. The band was really dainty, but kind of intertwined around in a teeny rope. So as soon as I saw the ring, I recognized it. The going rule for engagement rings, as everyone knows, is that they are supposed to last forever and be at least 3 to 4 months' pay. Ben works a good paying job, but brings in slightly less than Hannah. 4 months' wages for him would be at least $8,000 to $10,000 at an estimate. I know for a fact this particular ring is $450. I waited until the proposal was over and asked Ben and Hannah for a quiet word, but this has the opposite effect as I was overheard by other family, so I decided to just come out with it. I told Hannah that I had seen her ring online and that it wasn't a real diamond or even expensive. I accused Ben of trying to cheap out on one of the most important gifts of her entire life. And this was a huge mistake. Hannah burst into tears and informed me that she had given Ben a maximum budget of $400 and that she didn't want a real diamond. I was completely shocked that she would request this and was pretty certain she was just covering for Ben, but she doubled down and said that she has, so far, lost every single piece of jewelry she's bought and that she wanted to buy something that won't be a devastating loss if she loses it. She also claimed that they both wanted a long and expensive honeymoon instead of a big wedding. By this point, Hannah was crying loudly, and I decided I best leave. I thought I was doing my sister a sisterly duty by pointing out the fake ring, and my entire family have in turn called me a jerk. But I honestly think I was just trying to help her. Am I the jerk? Well, what do you think? Was she wrong to call out Ben like that? Or was she doing the right thing? Please let us know.
Serves him right for buying such a cheap ring.
$450 is nothing. We're paying them to work. Don't give them warm drinks unless they're going to reduce the fee. Another day, another entitled Karen. This is literally happening as I type. So for those who haven't seen my recent posts, I'm a veterinary nurse living near the Alps in Southeast Australia. It's winter, it's cold, and it's calving season. Myself and Boss Dude have been called out to a farm to assist with a bovine birth. It's this cow's first labor, so the farmer wanted us nearby just in case. It's just after 4 a.m. and we've been here since 11 p.m. It's also -5 degrees Celsius, 23 degrees Fahrenheit. I have thermals on under my scrubs and several other layers, but I'm still very cold. Adding to my situation, I'm also in the second trimester of pregnancy, so prolonged cold really isn't something I want to be in. The farmer is one of our regulars and he's lovely. When I started shivering, he went inside and grabbed some blankets for me to wrap myself up in while we sit and monitor this labor. A few minutes later, his phone rings and it's his wife yelling at him. He rolls his eyes and says, "It's freezing out here. The VN is pregnant and it's just a blanket," and hangs up. A little while later, he asks Boss Dude and I if we'd like a warm drink to keep us going, returns to the house, and comes out with a thermos for both of us. Coffee is exactly what I needed, for the warmth and for the caffeine to keep my mind alert during the awful hours. Farmer's wife comes outside and starts screaming at the farmer, then comes down to us and demands that we either give her the warm drinks we've already started drinking, or that she will expect a fee reduction for using their resources while on the job. What if we were sick? What's she gonna do if we give back the drinks that have been exposed to our saliva? Sure, Karen, we'll keep the coffees and take off the 70 cents it costs to make 2 thermoses of coffee. You're still paying for our time after hours on site. And now she's demanding a further discount to cover the cost of washing the blankets which have some hay on them. Or maybe we should just go home and not ensure the welfare of your cow and her calf. We've still got a few more hours here. Wonder how many more cents she will demand get knocked off of our fee because her husband has the audacity to be kind enough to make us comfortable while we wait in literal freezing conditions. Speaking of warm drinks, what's your favorite warm drink to have when it's cold out? Coffee, tea, hot chocolate? Please let us know.
I could really go for some hot cocoa right now with marshmallows in it. Yes.
Am I the jerk for telling my handyman to stop bugging my babysitter? We're doing some house renovations, and so workers are in the house. Today, 2 guys were putting up drywall in the living room while our babysitter is playing with our daughter in the family room while I'm working in my downstairs office. I hear the drywall guy asking personal questions to my babysitter until her answers started getting shorter and her tone changes. Guy: "So where do you live?" Her: "North of here." Guy: "Yeah, but where?" Her: "It's kind of a weird spot." That's when I finally walked upstairs and told him, "What is this, the census? She's watching my kid. Let her be." I thought I did it in a joking manner, but I guess it came off harsher than I intended. My wife promptly informed me I was a jerk to the guy and the babysitter had it under control. I get that white knighting is a thing and that I may be out of touch with where I should be putting my foot down, so I leave the verdict to all of you. Am I the jerk? Update: we spoke about the situation just before she left. I apologized to her for the weirdo and let her know he won't be back. To quote her, The thirsty ones never get the hint. The most eye-opening takeaway from this was when she told my wife and I, "If you think that was bad, you should check out my DMs." My wife is deflecting from whether I'm still the jerk, but I'll take what I can get. In her defense, even the babysitter noted that while my comment was funny, my tone was actually straight up yelling at the guy. It's a give and take, like anything in this world. Anyway, thank you all for your input, and here's to hoping the thirsty ones get a job which has them work from home and off of social media. What do you think? Did he make the right call by telling that guy to buzz off? Or do you think he should have left it alone? Please let us know.
Tell those thirsty men that my DMs are always open. Once you try a Karen, you'll never go back.
Can't stay past my clock out time? No problem. This is a story from about 6 years ago, back when I worked as a waitress. All names are fake for the purpose of privacy. The summer between grade 11 and 12, I worked at a small family-owned restaurant about a 20-minute drive from my house. I lived fairly in the middle of nowhere, so this restaurant and 2 others served basically the whole county. So even during the dead time of winter, we were often busy. But we're also directly on a path from a big city to a large lake, so we're especially busy in summer. The people that ran the restaurant were a married couple. The wife, Sandra, was generally lovely, but the husband, Marvin, had a very short temper. I think I can count the number of times he talked to me without yelling on one hand. I picked up on the job very easily. I'm very extroverted and friendly, so a lot of the customers loved me. Sandra decided to train me to do the opening shift at the restaurant. She would stay in the back and help me with prep and other things as I got used to the setting. Marvin was against this from the onset, saying I wasn't there long enough to be taking on this commitment. The malicious compliance took place about midway through June. After 2 weeks with Sandra helping me out, she stops coming by, so I was there with a singular cook until lunch when I got relieved by another staff member. It just so happens that the next few weeks were going to be gorgeous weather, so my first week without Sandra, we got slammed. The waitress that relieves me, Bonnie, is my senior. So, as Sandra and Marvin have told me, Bonnie can ask me to stay to help out, and it's like them asking me to stay. Bonnie asks me to stay and help out every day that week. Marvin sees my time clocked in and out and freaks out, saying he knew I wasn't trained enough and that I was using that excuse to get more hours, even though I was getting 25 plus every week and had a second job. I knew better than to say anything back, and then he told me I wasn't allowed to stay past my time anymore. I confirmed with him that no matter what, I shouldn't stay past my time. He yells that unless him or Sandra specifically tell me to stay, I can't stay past that time. I smile and tell him no problem. So I'm opening all of next week, and like the week before, we're slammed. It looks like there's going to be no reprieve as my time to clock out comes. I tell Bonnie I'm leaving, and like usual, she asks me to stay. I shrugged and said Marvin told me explicitly I couldn't take her word for asking me to stay. Bonnie is upset. She agrees that I can leave, and she phones Sandra and Marvin. Sandra phones me and asks me if I can come back, but I'm already at home at this point and I refuse. So her and Marvin have to leave their house to go help out. I come into work the next morning to open, and both Sandra and Marvin are there. Marvin starts yelling at me about how I just left when it was so busy, and I calmly remind him I was told to leave unless him or Sandra specifically requested it. He's grumpy and says I should know what he meant, so I ask if I can take the relieving waitstaff's word for asking me to stay. He disagrees, and instead I have to phone him before I leave. Sandra starts arguing with him, saying that's ridiculous, and to just let us make the judgment call as we're the ones out there and know what's happening. But Marvin is sticking to his guns, and Sandra just rolls her eyes and walks away. So obviously, here comes malicious compliance part 2. I phone him at the end of every one of my shifts, and even when I have to close or it's dead. I always said I just wanted to be sure this time since he was so upset last time. This lasts for a little over a week before he finally gives up and says, "It's fine if I or another waitstaff make a judgment call to stay past the time if it's busy." Well, old Marvin sure sounds like a piece of work. Have you ever had a boss this ridiculous?
Marvin sounds like my kind of man.
Would I be the jerk for demanding my boyfriend to compensate me after getting me fired? Since all of this started, I've been working from home. I'm a Spanish tutor and tutor students by appointments through video chats. Today, I told my boyfriend that I had an appointment, which means to please be quiet and not interrupt me. I'm in the middle of tutoring this student. She's older, very well-mannered, and all of a sudden, we hear my boyfriend yelling and cursing at the dog. The client sat there, mouth agape, and then she quickly ended the call. I texted my boyfriend saying something along the lines of, "Can you not yell curse words while I'm on a call? What the heck?" All the while trying to reconnect with the client. She did not pick up. I'm certain she's reporting me to my boss, and I will likely get fired. My boyfriend texted me an apology. I was so mad and anxious I didn't respond. Later, he came in and said he was sorry again. I told him an apology was not sufficient at all. I've been at this job for almost 5 years. It's a work-study job through the university, which I get food stamps, and they work with my nursing school schedule, and it's the only way I can pay for my bills and medication. I'm also applying to a graduate program and was depending on the supervisor recommendation from my boss. Now, that's all out the window. It is 100% his fault that I'm getting fired, and he makes more in a day than I do in a week. I can't get a normal job because of my erratic nursing school schedule, and I'll lose my food stamps and any other income. Would I be the jerk for demanding he compensate me for my lost job if I'm fired? Edit. Just received word from my boss that I'm suspended from working until further decisions are made. Edit 2. He agreed to pay equivalent to my salary until this is all resolved. My boyfriend owns his own business, so he makes a lot of money. Yes, he has military-associated PTSD. I didn't put it in the original post because he doesn't like that to be broadcasted, but I understand that it's important to mention. Yes, I live in the US. No, there's no more information to tell. This is the whole story. I've never done anything wrong at work, so this is my first offense. But I live in the Bible Belt in a very conservative area, and saying words like he did is a huge deal, unfortunately. Yelling at dogs is not abusive. Sometimes, as a trainer, we have to yell to be heard over barking dogs or even correct behavior in others. He was trained by the military to do what he does, so I trust his methods over the comments of Reddit strangers. Yes, we live together. He was in a separate room, but has a loud voice, and we could hear it through 2 closed doors. So what do you think? And what would you do if you were in this situation? Please let us know. Every day, we wear black. As a lifetime service industry employee, it's pretty typical to wear black as a uniform. Black blouse, black slacks or jeans, black dresses, and black shoes. As a makeup artist for Paul Mitchell, we must also wear black as a uniform for, well, uniformity, but also as to not cast colors onto anything or anyone being worked on, especially on a set. Working in a media spa meant scrubs, and much to my utter shock and surprise, they too were black. I bet you can see where this might be going. I wear black practically every day from head to toe, but trendily or fashionably, as to look less emo/goth and more stylish, or possibly a very angsty witch. Think AHS Coven. So there I was, elbows deep in a cart full of colorful clothes, spiraling deeply into an abyss of color possibilities. Blue goes with the black, white goes with the black, red goes with the black. I'm 6'3", so I have to try everything on, and I'm near the dressing room, about to try on my first haul, when I get yelled at.
Excuse me?
Some old voice says to nobody in particular.
Excuse me? Could you put that down and open a register?
I hope someone helps her. Her voice is grating.
Excuse me? You're needed over here.
I look up from my rainbow clothing vomit, spilling out onto my tiny cart, to see several ladies looking at me, then back at the woman talking. Surely she's not talking to me.
I can't believe she just ignored me. Excuse me? Are you deaf? Open a register. The line is too long.
Surely she does mean me, and I can't believe she'd talk to an employee like that. Wait, yes I can. I look back up, and an actual employee asks me if I need anything, probably wondering why this woman is demanding I open a register, like I have some kind of superpower that gives me permission to do whatever I want. I think that woman thinks I work here, I tell the employee. I know, I've been watching her get mad from behind the fitting room. I can't open a register unless the manager asks us to. There's only 3 of us today, so I doubt she'll do that. The yelling woman sees us talking and gets upset. She storms over, and being about 5'4", picks the short staffer to assault.
I've been waiting in line for 20 minutes.
Actually like 5.
Telling your staff to open a register, and she's just been ignoring me. I want to speak to your manager.
Finally, the employee breaks down and says, "Ma'am, she doesn't work here. I don't know what gave you that impression since she's not wearing a lanyard or anything with our logo on it. She doesn't have the authority to open a register as she's not employed here." I joke and say, "Every POS is the same." Horrible. To which screaming Karen loses it and says,
I'm telling your manager you called me a piece of crap. You're going to lose your job.
The employee is about to laugh, but obviously trying not to, and instead has a huge smile and says, "Sorry, ma'am. Hello, hi. She doesn't work here. A POS is a point of sale, which is what we call a register."
You don't even work here? Then why are you dressed like that? Why didn't you say so?
Because that isn't my job either. She lost her place in line and had to wait longer. I tried on my cart of clothes and found many things that go with black. This isn't the first or last time I've been accused of being employed somewhere, but definitely one of the more fun, less scary incidents. I typically get mistaken for management or a cop. Am I the jerk for hiding my finances from my future mother-in-law? I recently got engaged to my boyfriend of 3 years. For background, he's an oncologist. His parents divorced when he was 5. Mother-in-law never remarried or had more kids, but father-in-law did, and so fiancé has a younger half-brother and a stepmom. I have a BA and MBA from decent schools, but I quit my conventional office job to be a yoga teacher and eventually opened my own yoga studio. Mother-in-law was not outwardly hostile towards me, more like polite but very cold. She told fiancé it was because a yoga teacher wasn't good enough for him. Why couldn't he find a nice lady doctor or nurse at work, etc.? Fiancé told me this because we don't keep secrets, but I never mentioned it to mother-in-law. I just stopped trying so hard. She would periodically warn fiancé I was out for his money because he's a doctor. He needs someone on the same level. What mother-in-law did not learn until after we were engaged is that through my grandfather, I have a substantial trust fund. I have 0 student loans, a paid-off home, car, and my own studio with no debt. I keep this information private from most people because I don't want to be judged for it. I didn't tell fiancé until about 15 months into our relationship. When we got engaged, she was telling fiancé he needs a prenup, and that's when he told her about my finances. She lost her mind. Told him he and I should not have withheld that information. We were disrespectful, deceitful, manipulative, etc. She then started trying to act like my best friend. I maintained a polite distance. She asked fiancé why, and he told her that I knew she didn't like me because a yoga teacher isn't good enough. Y'all, she turned on the waterworks, tears, sobs, said he should not have told me, and that he ruined her relationship with her future daughter-in-law. I think she's full of it. His father and stepmom have been kind, accepting, warm, and loving to me since the day we met. It didn't matter that I'm just a yoga teacher. His mother insists I and my fiancé are cruel and deceitful. I think people like her are the reason I'm right to hide my financial situation. Fiancé thinks we should apologize just to smooth things over and clean the slate. I have no interest in doing so. Am I the jerk? Edit. For those asking, my fiancé would defend me when she insulted me. She did know I owned the studio, but assumed I financed it with loans. He did not have my explicit permission to share my finances with her, but was so sick of her harping about a prenup, he wanted to shut her up. As for all the advice about the prenup, that was always the plan, which my fiancé is obviously fine with. She's probably going to lose her mind. I've poked around on Reddit, and I think my fiancé is what people refer to as a surrogate spouse to his mother. Another incident comes to mind where she started crying when he wanted to spend his birthday dinner on the day of his birthday with me instead of her, and offered her the day before or after. That's clearly not healthy. So what do you think? Is it okay to hide your financial situation from your future mother-in-law?
Or does she have every right to know?
Entitled mom calls police on me because I refused to pay to fix her car. Cast. We've got me. We've got entitled mom. We've got innocent kid, assistant manager, and the police. I worked at a truck stop, and on this particular day, I was working the front, which is mostly car drivers. Kid comes in and says she wants to fill up on pump 16 and leaves me her card. I asked if she was getting diesel, and she said yes. She comes back in a few minutes later and pays. I thought that would be the end of it. Nope. Enter entitled mom. This is probably where I should drop some knowledge. Pumps 14, 15, and 16 are different from the other pumps on that side. They are meant for vehicles bigger than cars, but not as big as tractor trailers. If you don't know, most of those vehicles have 2 tanks. As such, there are nozzles on each side. Think a little less space between pumps and turn one around so they're facing each other. There's only one parking space for all the pumps. There are 3 standalone pumps on each side, spaced very close together. They look like ones you'd see in a mom and pop store. One is regular gas, one is premium, one is diesel, respectively on each side. It sounds confusing, but it's beneficial for the vehicles needing more space and various fuel types. Sorry if I explained this wrong. I don't always do well when describing things. The majority of people using those pumps are well versed on how to use them. Occasionally, other people would pull up when we were slammed, and it was usually these people who would mess it up. Each pump is vastly detailed to prevent errors. If only. The diesel pump is pretty much plastered with the word diesel everywhere, including the handle of the nozzle. I kept more than a few people from putting the wrong fuel type in their vehicle. I was always vigilant about asking because I know how I'd feel to make a costly mistake like this. If someone were to say they wanted diesel on pump 14, I'd tell them the diesel pump was 16. Now, back to our entitled mom. This lady is furious when she walks in. She immediately asks who rang up her daughter, and I said me. Then she's all,
My daughter just gave me the receipt, and this is not what I paid for. Your advertised gas price is...
Insert 2012 gas price here.
And I was charged a lot more. Can I speak to your manager?
Me. Yes, ma'am, I'll go get her. Just an FYI though, that's the diesel price, which is what you purchased.
What? I asked for gas, not diesel. Are you telling me that there is diesel in my car? This is your fault.
Nee. Ma'am, I just asked your daughter if she was buying diesel, and she assured me she was.
She's just a child. You should know better. My car is a...
whatever brand, I don't remember.
And I know you can look at it and see it takes gas.
Me. Ma'am, I don't have a view of that side of the lot, so I had no idea what you were driving. That's irrelevant anyway, because some cars do take diesel. At this point, my manager came up because Entitled Mom was making a scene. Basically, she reiterated everything that I told Entitled Mom. Entitled Mom was having none of it. She was convinced it was my fault, and nothing was going to deter her from that way of thinking.
This isn't right. I'm calling the police and filing a complaint. You are going to pay for the damage to my car from the diesel.
I just avoided her because I had other customers. Enter the police. They get a rundown of everything and explain that neither me nor the store were liable. Entitled Mom.
But my daughter didn't know. She is an innocent girl, and because of this lady, my car is ruined. Can't you do anything?
Police. It seems that if you had not sent your daughter in, this probably wouldn't have happened. As you said, she didn't know the difference in gasoline and diesel, yet you still put that responsibility on her by sending her in.
But that's not fair. Who is your supervisor? I am going to speak to them about all of you and your unwillingness to help and to blame an innocent kid.
Literally, none of us blamed the girl at all. I actually felt really bad for her and even told her before she left she wasn't to blame. Ultimately, it was her mom's fault for sending her in there with no idea what she was doing. Entitled Mom finally realized that what she wanted wasn't going to happen, but she was not happy about it. She wanted me to pay and or lose my job. She ended up being there my entire shift, waiting for someone to come pump out the diesel. She came back in several times throughout that day and stared daggers at me every time. I actually left before she did and laughed my butt off as I walked by her. I never saw her again, but she made good on her promise to complain to my company. Exaggeratedly, might I add. She made it sound as if I intentionally and maliciously made her pump diesel in her car. As if that's even plausible to begin with. Thankfully, my manager was there and told the actual story, and nothing happened to me. I know it sucks when this crap happens, and you want someone to blame, but we literally can't pay for your gas. I can't give you money out of my register. That would be stealing. People would tell me the wrong pump number, or forget to pump their gas and come back surprised that someone else had pumped their gas. Almost all of them expected for us to reimburse them for their mistake. You could literally get fired for being $5 short, much less filling up someone's gas tank because they messed up. Guy decides he needs handicapped parking spot more than my mom. A few years ago, in the middle of good old Canadian winter in January, my mom was heading to her car to go to work. Now, no one knows what exactly happened, but she probably slipped on some ice. But she fell and hit her head hard. My stepdad saw her outside and called an ambulance in time though. She had no memory for weeks on end, and her body wasn't working right for a long while after. Fingers and toes going limp/numb, or just not strong or working right. Basically, she was recovering for months. I'm also very protective of her and my siblings. Alright, context rant over. On to the story. We've got me, we've got entitled dad, we've got my mom, and we've got awesome police officer. So this takes place a few weeks after my mom got out of the hospital. She was using a cane to walk as her arms and legs were still pretty weak at times, and so she had a handicapped placard. I don't know what you call it where you're from, but that's what it's called in Canada. She needed to get her prescriptions from the store, and I had nothing to do that day, so I volunteered to take her. She lived in a small town at the time, with only one major pharmacy, so we of course went there. And as the title suggests, both handicap spots were taken, so I dropped my mom off as close to the door as possible and went to find a different spot. But as I went by the other cars in the handicap spots, I noticed one of them didn't have the placard. This definitely rubbed me the wrong way, of course, since my mom, who really needed the spot, had to walk further, so I did something extremely petty. I decided to park directly behind that car and block them in and wait for them to come out, not really thinking of how it all looked. A little extra context, since I know we all enjoy that. I'm a huge metalhead, so I kind of dressed the part, even in early spring. Black jeans, high-top shoes, 5-finger death punch shirt, metal militia hat, spiked earrings, big red/black flannel jacket, and I have a bad case of resting jerk face. So, thinking back, it looks bad seeing that blocking your car into its spot with your kids in the car. Continuing with the story, this guy comes out and sees me and immediately tears into me. This was a while ago, so dialogue isn't 100% exact. Entitled Dad.
Hey, what the heck do you think you're doing?
Me. I'm just here waiting for my mom to get her prescription.
Well, you can't just park there and block me in. I need to leave, so move.
I mean, if you can park wherever you want, then so can I, right? Considering you took the only other handicap spot and my mom needs it. So, I think I'll be staying right where I am. At this point, he's in my face and there's some yelling back and forth. He tries to take my keys and I threaten to knock him out. I know, jerk move, but again, I'm upset and my adrenaline is firing. Then he decides he's calling the cops. It's a super small town, so there's not a lot going on, and an officer is there in 2 minutes. Officer. All right, gentlemen, what's the issue?
This kid is blocking my car for no reason. Arrest him or make him move.
Me. Yeah, I'm blocking him, but only because my mom needed this spot, and he's parked here illegally. He starts to get the other guy's side of the story and looks at our vehicles when my mom finally comes out. Mom. Aaron, what's going on? Police officer. Hello, ma'am. How are you feeling? Been a while since I've seen you. How's your head doing? I heard you were in the hospital for a while. When Entitled Dad hears this and sees my mom, he goes white. Turns out that was one of the officers that came and checked on things when my dad called for an ambulance, and he knew without a doubt she needed that spot. And of course, when she told him about the parking issue, I was told to move and given a warning, but I'm pretty sure he handed the other guy a ticket and gave him a serious talking to. If you enjoyed this video, we've got another one you are going to love. It just popped up on the screen, so come watch it and we'll see when you get there.
And huge shout out to our newest official channel members, Marnie and Luke. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Join as a channel member today and we'll give you a special shout out in our next video. And if you'd like us to make a special video for you or a loved one, come visit us on Fiverr. Link pinned in the comments below.